Hi, everyone. Today we're going to be doing student organization risk management training. So you are sitting in this training because you are a representative of your student organization, and all of the information that you are about to learn in this presentation, you will now be responsible for sharing this information with your organization. There is already a copy of this presentation available on JagSync should you need this presentation. So why do we have to do risk management training? It is the law. Texas state law requires student organizations to complete a risk management training in order to be considered a registered student organization. So this goes for all of our recognized student organizations and sponsored student organizations. It's also to promote a safe and positive experience. Risk management is the process of considering the potential and perceived risk involved in student activities. It also includes monitoring organization activities and taking both corrective action and proactive steps to minimize accidental injury and/or loss. So the reason why we do it, like the actual personal reason behind risk management training, is due to a bill, House Bill 2639 and Senate Bill 1138, which went into effect September 1st, 2007. It is also known as the Clay-Warren Bill. So Clay Warren was a Texas Tech student. He was in a variety of student organizations. He was super involved. People talked very highly of him. Well, he was in a really bad car accident because he was driving late at night. He didn't take any breaks, and this was for a specific fraternity function that he was driving to and from for. And so he got into a really bad car accident, and unfortunately, he passed away. So because of that, his parents really made it their mission to petition the Texas state government to enact some legislation that would protect future students who are involved in student organizations from having the same harm come to them. So what that meant for them was that you all would now be educated in certain risks that can happen as being a part of a student organization. So it actually mandates risk management education for members and advisors of student organizations registered at post-secondary education institutions. So first, we're going to go over some risk management concepts and tools. There are going to be 5 risk types that we're going to talk about, and I may not read the full definitions, but as you can see, they are right there. So the first risk type is physical. Then we have reputation, emotional, financial, and facilities. So with physical risk types, those are very obvious, kind of like bodily injuries that occur from participating in an activity. So obvious things such as rope climbing, foodborne illnesses, injury, illness, death, hazing, high risk or excessive drinking. Then you have reputation. Now, these are incidents that may lead to the defamation or portray a bad image of the individual officers and members present of the organization, or the reputation of the student organization and the reputation of a university as a whole. So things to consider are, how will the media be affected by this? Alumni, family, donors, views of other members in the community. Then you have emotional risks. So those are incidents that alienate or harm the feelings of members of a specific community. So an example of this would maybe be selecting a theme for your event that stereotypes or offends a particular group. And it can also be psychological, hazing and sexual assault, inducing eating disorders, having alcohol and drug abuse. So for financial, those are occurrences that would negatively impact the fiscal stability of your organization. So this could happen by having an event on campus and then the event got out of hand, and so now you have to pay damages, or theft or misuse of funds due to poor accounting, money handling, fundraising, budgeting, and financial oversight. For facilities, this includes both the safety of the facility used for your members and participants and the maintenance of the facilities used by your members or participants. So just in general, fire safety, property damage, exceeding room capacity, crowd control. That crowd capacity thing can be reserving a room on campus that is too small for the number of participants that would show up. Now in the following sections, we are going to touch on each of these subjects. But before we do that, we are going to talk about risk management concepts. So risk management concepts are actually tied to our risk management matrix. The way that we do that is every event that you are submitting in JAGSync, you're now going to have to fill out these questions. So the risk management matrix really will walk you through identifying risky behavior and activities, assessing the probability of adverse outcomes, identifying and implementing controls to eliminate or reduce the risk, reassessing the activity after the risks have been managed. So this is a link directly to the risk management matrix, but you will find that now. Your event form is going to look a little different. This is the back end, but when you are submitting an event in JAGSync, it's going to be, you're going to be required to fill out this form where it's going to walk you through those steps. So the first thing that you can do is you can actually print out the handout, which is available to click there. Also, make sure you're filling this out fully. Do not put an A as a possible risk because there are inherent risks associated with all events. And then your event will be denied if this is not completed or it's completed incorrectly. So the first thing you're going to do is list out all risk concerns with your upcoming activity. And then secondly, you're going to identify risks associated with each activity. And you're going to use the risk management those 5 risk types to assess if there are any risks in those areas. So does your event have any physical risks, reputational risks, emotional risks, financial risks, or facility risks? And then if you have, since you've identified the risks up here, now you're going to brainstorm methods to manage the risks. So once you've identified all the risks related to your activities, you want to find the solutions to help mitigate those risks and find strategies that you can apply to reduce the severity of the risk and the probability that something will go wrong. And then finally, you will determine if you have reached an acceptable level of risk by applying those strategies. This may mean you need to consider modifying or eliminating some of the activities that maybe have an unreasonable risk associated with them. And remember to consider how those activities relate to your mission, to the mission of your organization. So again, this is what your risk management matrix looks like. The next question at the end is going to ask you, what is the probability that your event is going to occur? Is it going to likely occur immediately? And then from A through D, which is unlikely to occur at any time, at any point during the event. And then what is the level of seriousness with your event? Is it going to result in death at number 1, or is it maybe a hazard that presents a minimal threat to safety, health, and the well-being of participants? So you'll fill this out because that is what this little matrix actually is. And depending on the probability and the seriousness, you're going to land in one of these squares, an A1, a B1, a C, so on. And so if you are anywhere in the blue or the yellow, you're probably good. If you land anywhere in the red, then that means you and I are probably going to have a conversation to see what else do we need to do to help mitigate your risks. And so this is, you'll take whatever you selected in this one and whatever you selected here, and then you'll fill that in here. And again, if it's red, you're probably going to have a conversation. So these are just some important numbers to have in case you have any questions about any risk management. So the first number is UPD's non-emergency number. So if you just have any general UPD questions, you can get a hold of them by calling 1900. And then their emergency number is 784-1911. Rita Arredondo is our risk management officer on campus. I work very closely with her if y'all have any questions about your events. Then you have my information and my number, and then the Office of Student Involvement number. I'm not going to read all of these, but I do just want to make sure we are touching on what alcohol and illegal drug penalties are. So for public intoxication, this is when a person appears in public while intoxicated to the degree that the person may endanger themselves or others due to the impairment of their mental or physical faculties. Generally, you will get to sober up in jail unless there is a responsible sober adult that is willing to accept responsibility for you and the officer does not deem it necessary for a trip to jail. A minor in possession is a person who is a minor which is under 21 years of age, who is found to be in possession of any alcoholic beverage of any kind. They are in violation. Now, a minor in consumption is exactly what it sounds like. If you have consumed anything, even just one little sip of beer, you're violating the law. The only exception to this is if you are with a parent or a spouse who has given you that alcohol to consume. If you were to purchase or furnish alcohol to a minor, that is a serious Class A misdemeanor, and it is under the jurisdiction of the county court. A Class A misdemeanor is a step below a felony. So if you are having a party at your house or apartment and you are responsible, if one minor is found drinking at your party, you are in violation. A DUI is the offense of operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated by drugs or especially alcohol. This also includes drugs or prescription drugs. A DWI is the criminal law offense of operating a vehicle after having drunk an amount of alcohol sufficient enough to raise one's blood alcohol content above the legal limit, which is 0.08 in Texas. And then right there are just more information about the fines for the jail time and the fines associated with these felonies or misdemeanors. Just note that these are estimates and these fines do not include any court costs or lawyer fees that you might incur. So if you are an organization that is looking to host an event that has alcohol, these are some methods of control that we would want to make sure you employ. Please also just note that A&M San Antonio is a dry campus, and the only person who can authorize having alcohol on campus is Dr. Matson. So you will want to check IDs at the door and use the unique way of identifying those over the legal drinking age, such as with wristbands. Hire professional security to work the door and check IDs, serve non-alcoholic beverages and food, set a starting time and an ending time for the party and stick with it. Limit that party to 4 hours. Do not allow drinking games, maintain control of all alcoholic beverages present, and do not allow people to BYOB. So alcohol poisoning is when a toxic amount of alcohol has been consumed in a short amount of time. This can be with at least 10 plus beers in one sitting, causing the BAC to be at least 8.20. So remember, 0.08 is the legal limit in Texas. If you are 0.20, you are probably feeling very ill. So some of the symptoms associated with alcohol poisoning is unresponsiveness, erratic breathing, clamminess, vomiting while unconscious, being cold, disoriented, and having shallow breathing. So if you find someone who's possibly, or you think someone might have some alcohol poisoning, stay calm and call 911, stay with the victim and turn the person on their side, let someone who is certified in CPR take over while EMS is on the way, and then please wait until EMS gets there. I do want to remind everyone that Texas has the 911 Lifeline law. This was created so that underage students would not be scared of reporting possible alcohol poisoning of their peers. So if someone who is underage calls 911 to report someone else who needs emergency assistance for possible alcohol poisoning, that person has to stay on the scene to answer questions, but that person will not be charged by the police for also consuming alcohol under the age. But this only applies to the first person to call. So the possession of a usable quantity of marijuana, which is 2 ounces or less, is an offense under state law. This is a Class B misdemeanor. Those drugs listed, from heroin to opiates, they are considered dangerous drugs that have no medicinal value, and possession of these major drugs carries varied punishments and even the possession of only a single usable amount still carries a state jail felony. So please be aware of that. So what should you do? We obviously want to make sure you know the law. If you know or see a minor in possession, have them stop drinking and take the appropriate action to deal with the minor in a safe manner. If you are aware of illegal drugs at an event, notify authorities for the removal of the individual and ensure the person who is under the influence is properly cared for. If there is an impaired attendee, do not allow that person to drive, seek medical assistance as needed, and do not leave that person alone. Now we're going to talk about hazing. So this definition right here is straight from the Student Code of Conduct, and it defines hazing as any intentional, knowing, or reckless act occurring on or off the campus of an educational institution by one person alone or acting with others directed against a student for the purpose of pledging, being initiated into, affiliating with, holding office in, or maintaining membership in an organization. Examples of hazing include any type of physical brutality, such as whipping, beating, striking, or branding, electronic shocking, placing of harmful substances on the body, or similar activities, sleep deprivation, exposure to the elements, confinement in a small space, and or calisthenics, consumption of a food, liquid, alcoholic beverage, liquor, drug, or any other substance, any activity that induces, causes, or requires the student to perform a duty or a task that involves a violation of the law, or coercing the student to consume a drug and or an alcoholic beverage or liquor in an amount that would lead a reasonable person to believe that student would be intoxicated. So hazing does not help you assimilate better into a group or an organization, help you build inner strength, take into account the psychological state of an individual, have boundaries, or follow safeguards that govern actions or activities. It doesn't also have to be illegal and or involve ingesting something, and it does not represent the only creative alternative bonding activity. What it does is it creates a cycle of abusive behavior, creates a false sense of power and control, and it displays an absence of constraints or boundaries. And in the end, it just humiliates, degrades, and embarrasses people. So how can you prevent and eliminate hazing? You can help others by noticing what hazing is and reporting it immediately. Interpret hazing as a problem, recognize the responsibility to eliminate it, take action, realize that the most effective way to be educated about hazing is to begin by drawing attention to hazing and helping others interpret hazing as a problem. Analyze organizational events for policy compliance and safety. Share with members the consequences of hazing, and then publicize hazing policies to your membership. So I do just like to give a little trigger warning right here. The next couple of slides, we are going to talk about sexual harassment and sexual assault. So sexual harassment is unwelcome conduct on the basis of sex, of a sexual nature or otherwise, by an employee of the university who conditions the provision of an aid, benefit, or service of the university on an individual's participation in that unwelcome sexual conduct. It is determined by a reasonable person to be so severe and pervasive and objectively offensive that it effectively denies a person equal access to the university's education program or activity. And finally, sexual assault or dating violence, domestic violence, or stalking based on sex. Federal law prohibits sexual harassment of college students, whether the harasser is an employee or another student. Sexual assault is an offense that meets the definition of rape, fondling, incest, or statutory rape as used by the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting System. A sex offense is any sexual act directed against another person without the consent of the victim, including instances in which the victim is incapable of giving consent. In order for individuals to engage in sexual activity of any type with one another, there must be clear, knowing, and voluntary consent prior to and during sexual activity. Consent is defined as clear, voluntary, and ongoing agreement to engage in a specific sexual act. Persons need not verbalize their consent to engage in a sexual act for there to be permission. Permission to engage in a sexual act may be indicated through physical actions rather than words. Consent may be revoked by any party at any time. A person is mentally or physically incapacitated when that person is not capable of making rational decisions about consent to sexual activity and recognizing the consequences of their decisions. Engaging in sexual activity with a person whom you know or reasonably should know to be incapacitated constitutes sexual misconduct. A person who is asleep or mentally or physically incapacitated, either through the effects of drugs or alcohol or for any other reason, or whose agreement was made by threat, coercion, or force, cannot give consent. So in order to stay safe on campus, we want you to be aware of a couple things. So first of all, know your resources, stay alert, be careful about posting your location, make others earn your trust. A college environment can foster a false sense of security, and they may feel like fast friends, but give people time to earn your trust before relying on them. Think about a plan B, and be secure. Lock your doors, windows when you're asleep and when you leave your room. If people are constantly popping open the main door of your dorm or apartment, tell security or a trusted authority figure. In social settings, make a plan, protect your drink, know your own limits. So keep track of how many drinks you've had and be aware of your friend's behavior. If one of you feels extremely tired or more drunk than you should, you may have been drugged. So leave the party or situation and find help immediately. Know that it's okay to lie. If you want to exit a situation immediately and are concerned about frightening or upsetting someone, it's okay to lie. You are never obligated to remain in a situation that makes you feel uncomfortable, pressured, or threatened. You can also lie to help a friend leave a situation that you think may be dangerous. So be a good bystander, trust your instincts. If you notice something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Speak up or call someone. Keep your friends safe in a social situation. If you or someone you know has experienced a sexual assault, there are some steps that you can take to make yourself feel safer. So make use of on-campus resources. We have our student counseling center, and they have 24/7 now. You can call them 24/7 at that phone number. And then we also have the Rape Crisis Center hotline number right there. And obviously the UPD, that's their non-emergency number, but then their 1911 is also the emergency number. And then we also have a Title IX coordinator here on campus. You can also request a schedule or housing change. If you have classes with a perpetrator or live in the same building, you can request a change from your college administrator. And then there are also off-campus support services that you can utilize as well to help you create a safety plan. Safety planning is about finding ways to be safe in the present while planning for yourself and your future safety as well. So if you know someone who is a survivor of sexual assault, we know that it's not always easy to know what to say when someone tells you that they've been sexually assaulted, especially if they're a family or family member or friend. So this is some recommendations for how you can talk to a survivor of sexual assault. Just offer your continued support. Avoid judgment, check in periodically, and again, know your resources. The next topic is going to be fire and life safety. So Events in general have inherent physical risks that require contingency plans, such as fire safety, inclement weather, and campus emergencies. So organizations should have an emergency contact number for your fire, police, or your ambulance. Prior to any event, plan and provide for all facilities being used. So is there an what is the evacuation route? Is there any shelter available? You should know the specific location of where you're going, if it's going to be off campus or even on campus, in case you have to direct emergency services there. And then the possession of unlicensed firearms or explosive devices of any kind is forbidden. So if there is an emergency, please be sure to call authorities to notify them. Most locations have a 911 service. You want to verify that emergency contact number before the event, though. The first priority should be to ensure safety of all attendees, have some method of accounting for attendees' locations, and then initiate appropriate actions in response to the emergency. If it's a fire, you want to evacuate the building. Do not allow anyone to re-enter a building until it has been cleared by all the proper authorities. And here are some common causes of accidental college fires. You want to report to the administration, landlord, if there is defective or inoperable fire protection equipment. Do not tamper with fire protection equipment. Know your evacuation routes in your apartments, houses, hotels, conference centers. So if you're going to a conference for your organization, you're going to be in a new city, likely in a hotel. So just know where and how to evacuate should an emergency arise. You want to keep egress hallways and exits clear of obstructions. And if you observe a fire, activate the fire alarm system and notify the building's occupants of the emergency. Notify UPD and the San Antonio Fire Department of the fire, evacuate the building, and remain outside until you're notified by the fire department that the building is safe and clear to re-enter. So we most recently had a fire in the CAP building. So I was just thinking about that as I was going through this. So please make sure you are aware of your surroundings and you're listening to people. If the fire alarm goes off, it may not be a false alarm, like it was an actual real fire. So we also want you to sign up for JAG-E alerts. The UPD website is where you go to do that. So you will sign up. Here's the instructions on how to register, and you'll be receiving notifications via email and I believe text messages for active shooters, bomb threats, any updates with the pandemic, fire and evacuations, timely warnings such as if there's been a sexual assault on campus, a burglary, fondling, or hate crimes. And then other topics that might be sent out are also weather closures, parking lot closures, and exercise drills. So definitely sign up for the JAG-E alert, but also download the Safe Zone app. The Safe Zone app is super important and it's very helpful to have. And we're going to watch just a short video about that.
Your safety is of utmost importance to A&M San Antonio. To help, we brought the Safe Zone app to campus. Here's how it works. Press any of the support buttons in the app to notify dispatch and have the nearest officer come help, fast. The Safe Zone app is available free for both iPhone and Android devices. Once you've signed up with your university email address, you're ready to go. Download the app today.
And I also like to go over some of the programs that UPD also offers. And if you're interested in any of these, you can also have them come out and do them with your student organizations. So most recently, right now, if you're unaware, they are offering civilian response to active shooter events. That was a very hot topic, obviously. So they're called CRAES, Civilian Response to Active Shooter Events, and we're advertising them right now in JAGSync. But UPD is offering active shooter how to respond to an active shooter, as well as any of these other programs. So we definitely want to talk about travel. A&M San Antonio is supportive of students' co-curricular activities both on and off campus, but also recognize that the safety of its students is the utmost importance. So travel processes applied to an activity or an event located more than 25 miles from the university or outside of the San Antonio metro area when the activity is sponsored and or funded by the university or coordinated by a student organization properly registered at the university. So where y'all fall into this is by the or, because you all are student organizations. So this little red dot right here in the center, that is A&M San Antonio. And then this big bluey purple circle, this is 25 miles all the way around, like it's a 25-mile radius. If you're hosting an event anywhere within this radius, you do not have to fill out any travel paperwork. If you are hosting an event outside of those 25 miles, you will have to submit travel paperwork. So in order to travel safely, you must attend this risk management training and go over this travel training. And then you are supposed to also fill out the student travel packet and individual travel forms for everyone who is traveling at least 10 business days prior to traveling. Students traveling must be enrolled in good standing and at least 18 years of age, and they must comply with the student code of conduct at all times. So the following documents are required for all organized student travel 10 business days prior to departure. And I'll, in parentheses, is where, in which form that document is located. So we will need your trip itinerary, a travel passenger list, the Clary Act student travel form, the emergency information for each participant, and then basically the indemnification agreement is like a waiver, and that is located in the individual student travel form. So these forms can be found on the TMUSA website. And if you type in, nope, not that. If you search student travel, you can see I do that often. And it's right here. So, and basically a lot of this is going to say what we're about to go over, but we need one student travel packet and then for the trip. So if you were going to Dallas, and you're the Bubble Blowing Society going to a conference, you would fill out one student travel packet. And then everybody in the Bubble Blowing Society that is going with you would need to fill out these individual travel forms. So this is where they're located. If you are traveling by car, these are some driver safety guidelines we'd like you to consider. So drivers and passengers must comply with all applicable traffic laws and regulations. Drivers should act responsibly and use sound judgment. Drivers must not drive under the influence or transport or possess alcoholic beverages, illegal drugs, unauthorized firearms, or any other type of weapon. Drivers and passengers must wear seatbelts at all times. The number of occupants in the vehicle must not exceed the number of seatbelts in the vehicle. And then drivers must have a valid Texas driver's license, and your vehicles must have all insurance coverage as mandated by the state of Texas and have a current state inspection and registration. It is recommended that an advisor or staff member or faculty accompany each student traveling, each student organization traveling as a group. In the event that an advisor or staff member or faculty cannot attend the function with the student group, the group should become familiar with the expectations for behavior and all procedures pertaining to student travel. The crime statistics report form for student travel must be completed when you return from your travel. It goes straight to UPD. The form is available in JAGSync under forms, and you will also get an email reminder about that when we send you your travel packet. So just some things to consider. You might want to consider any alternative methods of transportation. So if you are like, oh, our conference is in San Diego, California, let's drive. We're probably going to say it's probably safer if you fly. Anticipate or prepare for emergency expenses associated with travel. Transportation in open beds of trucks should be avoided. Make sure you can make accommodations for everyone. Plan to take a 15-minute break every 2 hours of driving. When assigning someone to perform a task involving driving, consider their physical and mental state, the length of the trip, and the number of available drivers. Does your location provide easy ingress and egress for emergency vehicle access? And what would happen if you were stranded by bad weather? Is there anything in the area for you to take shelter under? So one of the biggest questions I get a lot is, can our organization be held responsible for individuals' behavior? The short answer is yes. It can depend on the number of members attending, but most importantly, you assume responsibility if the activity is related to your organization. Organizations may be held responsible when acts of individual members are differently related to the student organization's activities. The member is violating local, state, or federal laws or university regulations, and other members present fail to discourage such activities. And remember, in addition to the group being held responsible, individual members, officers, and your advisor may also be held responsible for an individual member's actions. So how can you prevent potential problems? You want to communicate organizational and university expectations to members before there is a problem. Know the law. Use good judgment when choosing to attend a party or an event, or when you're posing for pictures, or if you decide to stay at a party, even if you detect illegal or risky behavior. All student organizations advisors are considered campus security authorities. CSAs are federally mandated reporters, and they are responsible to report the various crimes that may be reported to them. So this includes arrest of referral for use of alcohol, drugs, or weapons, sexual assault, rape, incest, stalking, and domestic violence, dating violence, robbery and burglary, and murder. So for individuals with disabilities, under state and federal law, the A&M system policy, no individual will be excluded from participation in or be denied the benefit of or be subjected to discrimination based on disability under any system program or activity. This includes extracurricular programs such as student organizations and club sports and activities. This may mean making reasonable modifications and providing aids and services that are necessary to ensure that qualified individuals with disabilities have an equal opportunity to participate, unless to do so would fundamentally alter the program. A person with a disability is one who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities and has a record of such an impairment or is regarded as having such an impairment. A&M system programs and activities will not operate on the basis of generalizations, assumptions, prejudices, or stereotypes about disability generally or specific disabilities in particular. If you have any questions or concerns about making accommodations for individuals with disabilities, contact Student Disability Services. This is also important, why we really want to make sure that you're including that accommodation statement, not only in your flyers, but also on your events in JagSync. Just that simple line of, if you require accommodations, please contact so-and-so XYZ at jaguar.tamusa.edu, or Tammy. That just helps so many students know that this is an event that they can attend, and you're willing to make reasonable accommodations for them. So in the next 45 days, you must do the following. You are now responsible for reporting the program content at a meeting of your full membership for your organization. Then you're going to submit to our office the risk management verification form. You're going to also submit a copy of the meeting agenda or flyer detailing the topic covered at the meeting. And then you should be adopting a risk management policy for your organization if you don't already have one. You must take attendance at the presentation. You must impose reasonable sanctions on a person who is required to attend and fails to attend. And then you must maintain for 3 years, and this is something we do, the record of attendance. So we'll hold on to that. So if you are not already a member of the student organization leader page on JagSync, make sure you request to join. And then you'll see under forms, this is the student organization risk management verification report. This is the report that you're going to submit to me, and it tells you that it has the same instructions there. So what is your organization name? When did you present the topic? Upload the agenda, upload your attendance sheet. Did your organization adopt the risk management policy? And then is there anything else that you want me to know about anything? If you have members that fail to attend, you can impose reasonable sanctions on that person who is required to attend and fails to attend. You should also find alternative ways of probably presenting this information. Many organizations do their own version of a presentation and a quiz, so that's something that you can also consider. So that is all. Other than that, you are now completed with the risk management training, and I'm going to go ahead and end the session.